Hey, welcome to Solo Playing Tips. So this one is all about when if you're playing through a published adventure or you've picked up some a table of random encounters, just to kind of take some of the creative burden off you, or a one-page adventure, and you're slotting it into your game. And it turns out that there is a creature or a foe or something that needs a particular weapon or particular magic item or piece of kit for you to defeat it. Now, one option would be to completely rework the encounter to remove that requirement, or the other thing is to make sure that you've got that piece of equipment, and that is much easier. It's by far easier to fix the equipment than it is to fix the encounter. So what you can do is try and create a little side quest, and it could be as simple as um, you know, just a few characters create some kind of complication for you, which you have to resolve. That could be your own NPCs, but as a reward for resolving the complication, you get the weapon that you need. Um, you could just, bolt on a couple of extra rooms which aren't in the published adventure, but if you can see the map, you can see where they would exist, and then put some encounters in there. A reason to go down there and some encounters down there, and the reward is the gear that you need. Or the nice thing about doing that one actually is if you've already set the theme for the adventure. It could be a crypt, it could be a deserted hulk of a spaceship hanging in space. It could be some kind of military special forces base. You kind of set a theme. You can picture the rooms. You know what the doors look like, the lighting, and the ambient sounds. If you just create three more rooms or a few more rooms, you're going to keep that same ambience. You don't have to do that creative process again. And then you go through this little section, and at the end of it, you get the reward, which is the piece of gear that you needed, so you can then carry on. You can you by using the creative process of the original writer for the adventure. That's some of the burden you don't have to carry. They've set that theme, they've set the encounters. It's just all you're doing is fixing one piece of missing gear, and then you can carry on. And it doesn't have to be a special piece of gear. It could be that maybe you just need some first aid kits or some healing potions or something, because the adventure made assumptions of how powerful the party would be, and you're one player or one an NPC, so you can kind of keep the whole theme, keep the creative bit that you're using, and then just create these little extra sections, a small side quest with a few characters. It's a small cast. You don't have to create hundreds of NPCs, and then you kind of you get this reward. And when you're dealing with that cast, you could, to make it consistent, maybe have an underling that is trying to impress their boss. So they, rather than waiting for you to get to the boss, then the big boss fight, the underling decides they're going to try and take you out or capture you or whatever. And it's the underling that has got the item. So you have to defeat the NPC to get the item, and it's the NPC plus some goons or some, low level creatures. It's a suitable challenge to get the reward, and then that is now consistent with you've defeated one of their the lieutenants of the big bad guy, which is something you can then role play later when they're expecting that lieutenant to be at their side and he's not. So you can kind of use that. You can maybe have a faction within um the main group. If you're attacking an army base, there could be a small group of special forces who are a separate group. They're not really under the command of the base commander. They're not taking orders. They're deciding to do their own thing. You run into them. You get the rocket launcher that you need to take out the helicopter. That kind of little scenario. Or we normally assume that the player characters are the only ones that are going into the crypt to defeat the undead, or they're the only people breaking into the army base. You could put a rival group of NPCs in there, which then becomes a kind of recurring thorn in your side or possibly source of help, something else. And you run across them and they happen to have the piece of gear. And either whether you end up fighting each other by mistake or you decide to help each other for this one encounter, it's up to you. You've got this extra little group of NPCs that you can play with, and maybe even hop into one of those NPCs and play one of them as a character for a scene or two. If the thing you needed wasn't a piece of gear, but it was actually someone who could crack a safe, and none of your characters had that skill, then maybe you could have a competing group and play their thief for a bit, and then hop into your character once the safe's been cracked. So you rather than having to undo all of this, the pre-done adventure just to solve one problem, it creates a wealth of opportunities for you to play with where you can go, right, okay, I can fix it this way or that way. I can add a bit more. If you're loving defeating the army base, create an extra warehouse, and that's where your thing is. Just extends your adventure a little bit. When that extension gives you what you need. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for watching.